All right, we are live, and I got knocked off guard. Sidebar got finished on time. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I figured, okay, I leisurely come up here. We have a guest tonight, Matt Orfalea. How you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Hey, thanks for being here. Allison is the woman of the hour, has another live stream that she's doing. She'll be joining us later. And yes, Stacey Naja, Viva would have a heart attack, but I'm not anxiety ridden like Viva. I'm relatively calm. So,
I can get anxious, but
yes, Allison does look different. No, we brought Matt on. Matt's actually been on the show recently. He's been on with Allison. He's been part of the whole drama with Allison, YouTube channels going off, channels going on, videos coming up, videos being deleted, videos sometimes private, sometimes not, but whatever they are, big YouTube's looking. So I wanted to get a catch up with everybody and find out what is going on right now with you, Matt. What is your status? First, you have a channel.
yes, I have a channel. Luckily, still at the moment, and the status is I'm still waiting to get some response from YouTube. I'm going to be waiting a long time unless I can get some serious press, and I appreciate this little you're offering here. And what I'm trying to do is to get YouTube to admit its latest error, which was taking down a video I made with Allison, who's coming, like you said. And when Allison had her video about NBC and CNN violating YouTube's guidelines, when she had that video removed, I interviewed her because she had interviewed me when YouTube removed my videos. And, well, what happened? Good news, Allison did have her video reinstated after a big Twitter storm, but then YouTube took my fucking video down.
Right,
defending
which was
her.
the video that was reinstated of Allison. So it was a video of a video.
Yeah, well, I did a live stream with Allison, and we referenced her video explaining why it did not violate YouTube's guidelines. And, YouTube, we were obviously right because YouTube did reinstate her video. Under the sketchiest of circumstances, they did not announce or apologize or explain anything. It just mysteriously reappeared after they rejected her appeal.
Bill Berry is saying, and actually, a conservative YouTuber pleading with YouTube is like one of Ted Bundy's victims pleading with Ted Bundy. That is a true statement, except Matt's not a conservative.
That's right. It's any YouTuber that is not any actual YouTuber, any actual fucking YouTuber. I mean, you CNN and NBC, they're on YouTube, but they're not YouTubers. So any real independent YouTuber is going to run into a lot of trouble. And it just occurred to me, I mean, at least I was just able to put it into words on Twitter, but we all heard that statement from the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, saying that the White House believes that if a person is removed from one platform, that they should be removed from all platforms. And if you look at any case where somebody's been removed from a platform or a platform has admitted a mistake removing a user from a platform, in every case that I'm aware of, the only reason that they admitted the error and fixed things was because the removed user was able to generate a storm on another platform, typically Twitter.
It's almost like they're paying attention.
Yeah, so if the White House gets its way and you're removed from all platforms if one platform has an issue, there's literally no way, there's no hope of getting a wrongful conviction overturned because nobody will ever hear it. You'll never be able to generate enough press to force YouTube or whichever big tech platform to respond. It's horrible.
Yeah, this is the thing that I've been talking about for a while, and I was talking about it when my channel got yanked. remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago now when Alex Jones was removed and everybody's like, oh, but that's Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And all I could think of, and I thought of it back then, I still think of it now. Have you ever seen the poem from World War II, First They Came?
I know a couple lines. You want to remind us?
Well, it's essentially first they came for the trade unionists, but I wasn't one, so I didn't worry about it. Then they came for like the homosexuals. I don't remember all of them in order, but it was, and then they came and there was nobody else around me. And all I could think of is first they came for Alex Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on that, cheers. What are you having?
So now I'm going to embarrass myself, so I'm not much of a drinker, I don't handle myself well enough sober. So that's really the main reason. But this is, what is it called again? Kombucha. And it's like maybe half a percentage of alcohol. It's like maybe 0.5%. Anyway, but I was like, all right, well, technically I'm, drinking alcohol. So.
Everybody in the chat, please tell me what you're having. And yes, Matt's in a different location. He is now in a California bunker, obviously, probably underneath Gavin Newsom's mansion with kombucha.
If it's underneath Gavin Newsom's mansion, I'm in a dungeon.
One can hope. Oh no! All right, I'm having my age-old Raging Bitch, complete with the Hunter S. Thompson artist work.
Nice.
And we'll find out what Allison is having.
I'm gonna guess wine.
She'll sometimes really throw a curveball. And I mean, she insulted us once. She came in with Coors. I'm like, Coors. Ooh,
that's almost worse than kombucha.
Oh yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I'm like, Allison is like Miss Health. And, she's got a great wine deal with the Argentinian Highland, whatever. I'll have her tell it. But Coors. I was like, something's wrong here. All right. So what do we have going here? We've got Barnes coming in classy, 25-year Scotch. Barnes has the budget. So he's always got the good stuff. Moonshine for Legal Beagle. Oh, 1 letter off. Yeah. Fresh from the bathtub. Sold. Elysium Space Dust. I have actually had that John Dutchman. It's not bad. Camille's responsible in having OJ. Harold Pastian, also responsible. Coffee. And we got a rum and Coke. And what else do we have? Oh, MZB about. Is that the same Argentinian Malbecs that Allison is selling? I'm sure she'll love hearing that if it is. And we got Black Rum, Campari, Triple, Zima, Ironworks, Jack and Coke. Awesome. Okay, nice spread here.
Barnes, with a reputation for being a little late, says Allison makes me look early.
Oh yeah, he does. Well, Barnes is just he's got that California. What does he call it? I think he calls it California time. But he's defending Wesley Snipes and all the big names, so he's got to know when to show up. He lets everything get settled down. So let me see. We've got a few things going on. I might start on. Have you seen the latest on? You mentioned Jim Psaki and all that. How they're going after, and somebody, NPR is literally going after Daily Wire now, doing a hit piece on it.
That's nothing new, is it? I don't believe that's. That kind of thing's been going on for a while, right?
Yeah, sure. It's just it is kind of funny because Matt, I had to get help for the name earlier, guys. Matt Taibbi. God bless it. Taibbi. Okay, well, I got your name right, so I'm
yeah, that is still, I'm still impressed.
And the thing is that Allison actually has him coming on Monday, I believe.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, he wrote a piece on this, and it is so perfect about NPR and they're complaining about, well, Barnes actually complains about him too, little Ben Shapiro, but it is hilarious because they are complaining essentially that he's doing better than they are, and that other outlets like Breitbart and things like that are doing better than they are. So what do you take this? I'm curious your thoughts, because you're in kind of media circles and all that. Is this an industry that's like dying and screaming louder because it's dying, or is it a legitimate threat? What is it?
Well, obviously that's part of it, that I suspect they're not doing so well, like most outlets who were getting a boost, complaining about Trump 24/7, and
Right.
how we're turning into a Nazi nation 24/7, or how we're turning into a fascist nation 24/7, while now we're actually doing real fascism with censorship. The government is working with corporations to censor people, to burn books. That's actual fascism. Now they're being quiet. But about them calling out conservative outlets such as The Blaze, Breitbart News, and Western Journal. Anytime I see that, it smells like bullshit, because I also read a Washington Post article on. I wanted to see what the Post was, just out of curiosity. How are they framing this latest censorship thing, right?
Okay.
And the first paragraph is something about right wingers complaining about censorship. It's like, what the fuck? Anytime you have to frame, anytime you frame an issue so important as the First Amendment as a right winger issue, that just the whole article, that just shows you the whole article is bullshit.
I'm surprised they use the word censorship. I mean,
honestly, I don't. Yeah.
Typically they say right wingers have their panties in a bunch that they can't complain needlessly and spread unfactual information. That would be a typical headline that I could think of. That they wouldn't even deign to use the word censorship, because, well, it's not censorship, because that's not even language. We don't even consider it. It's not a differing opinion. They don't even belong in the conversation.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, it's just memory. I may have it wrong. They might not have even used the word censorship. If they did, it would definitely be, something like right wingers cry censorship, or something, something like that.
Oh, well, what does my shirt say? Yeah, that's right. This is from Luke Rutowski or something like that. I don't remember his name, but his channel, We Are Change. Let's make Orwell fiction again. It'd be nice. It's not going so well. It'd be nice. He's only 30 years off. So what I find very interesting is the times right now are making for some strange bedfellows. Like I know Jimmy Dore, you're friends with him, and
I just got off his live stream.
Oh, well, there you go. Jimmy is no friend to Ben Shapiro. They're, the politically are probably opposite in every way, but in a funny circumstance, I feel like you have a lot of people on the left and a lot of people on the right who are really just saying, we want to be able to express our opinion. Like Matt Taibbi.
There you go.
I get it. Okay, Matt Taibbi is by no means a right winger.
No,
he's with Glenn Greenwald. I mean, pretty lefty and all that, but it's very funny. I don't think that Matt would have ever seen himself writing and defending Ben Shapiro against NPR. Don't you find this odd?
Well, see, it's not odd if somebody actually holds real principles. It just makes sense. If you agree, value the First Amendment, then of course you would defend someone from censorship, and speak out against censorship of people you don't agree with, as well as people that you do agree with. It's just, that's what the First Amendment is all about. If you don't, I think Chomsky put it well, if I can quote him accurately, is if you don't support free speech from people you disagree with, you don't support free speech. And interestingly enough, it comes to mind because we were talking about NPR. NPR actually censored Noam Chomsky back in the day. They recorded, enough people contacted NPR. They're like, we want to speak to Noam Chomsky. He was like, is and has been one of the, best known, if not the most famous, American intellectual. And so they rallied to get him on NPR. NPR interviewed him about his latest book at the time, which was about propaganda. And he does his interview, and it doesn't fucking come on the radio. He recorded his interview, and they didn't put it on the radio. And the station manager finally contacted him later and said it wasn't her decision. It was from the higher ups. It's her boss. Isn't that amazing? So fucking NPR, man. Anyway.
But believe it or not, there's another guy, Adam Carolla, I believe, who has an NPR interview that's just floating somewhere out in the ether.
They never published it, huh?
It's funny how that, just these weird things. That makes me think. I'm going to circle back to Alex Jones, right? Remember when Megyn Kelly had Alex Jones on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he very famously released a recording of their interview before she did. Because he recorded the whole thing and dropped the audio. And to his credit, he saw it coming. I mean, whatever you think about Alex Jones, he is the most hunted person on the internet there for a while. And he smelled the hit piece coming. And I, give him credit. He literally recorded everything and then dropped the tape before she could get it out there. And I saw that recently too. Did you see Jordan Peterson, who got really screwed over by, I think it was the London
Vice?
Times.
Oh, okay.
Well, Vice screwed him up. Oh, everybody screwed him up. But more recently, they went after him, and even kind of more cruelly, they went after Michaela Peterson. Because they sort of made it like, he was this crazy old man. We all know he's crazy, right? Bad messages, you've heard all that. But then he's really kind of pathetic because of his horrible drug addiction and psychoses, and his daughter was taking advantage of him. This is all implied in this piece, and it was just a horrible hit piece. And she released the whole, it was like 3-hour interview, and it was heartbreaking to hear, because while I'm not a reporter like Allison, I'm not trained in all that.
It's not, but nobody needs to be. The training for a journalist is like, there's no training. It's just ask questions, find the truth.
Be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I could hear in the questions just the sneering. You could just sit there and listen and be like, oh God. I could hear, well, and it was just, so sweet and buttery. And then, circling around, then he'll answer a question, but then you ask a follow-up, but it's not the same question. It's like, okay, now here comes a straw man. Okay, it's like, do you really care what they're saying or what they're answering? And I know you're kind of in the thick of it, so you have to be exposed to that to some degree. You've interviewed Jim Acosta. Tell us about that.
That was interesting. Yeah. So, I gotta be, just to be clear with people, he did not accept my interview. I had to meet him. I had to ambush him, the good old guerrilla journalism style. And it was at the Newseum, which is the First Amendment Museum in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's still around. So I guess that's appropriate. The First Amendment is dying, so why not the First Amendment Museum along with it? But so anyway, so I
love that.
It's terrible. But literally, the First Amendment was even chiseled in the concrete it's a large, giant museum. So he was promoting his book all about protecting the First Amendment from the Trump administration. And so he gave a little lecture, and there was a Q&A session. And I saw that. I'm like, oh, damn, this I can't pass this opportunity up. So I showed up and was the first one on the mic. And I asked him simply, what are your thoughts on the Espionage Act charges against Julian Assange, which is the first time in our history, our country's history, that we have prosecuted a journalist for publishing information. And the facts are, the government has not been able to prove a single instance of anybody being physically harmed as a result of the leaks. It exposed war crimes, the leaks. And anyway, so I asked Jim Acosta this question, and he just bullshits, which is amazing because he starts the response with, I've actually been asked this question before. It's like, okay, but he never answered it.
Loaded. You got an answer for me. What is it?
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? So you have the chief White House correspondent who has just written a book about protecting the First Amendment from the Trump administration in the First Amendment Museum. And he cannot answer a question on the most important First Amendment case in modern history that has occurred under the Trump administration. It's just pathetic. And he, I guess, as one might expect, he started talking about Russia somehow. It has nothing to do. The prosecution, the charges against Assange have nothing to do with Russia. Zero. It's all about leaks from 2010, information about the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. Mm-hmm. And he goes on talking about Russia. And anyway, so yeah, that's basically how it was.
We're asking him about, if you're talking about a journalistic hero, well, there's only Jim Acosta. You confused it. The wrong J. Not Julian, Jim.
Yeah.
Jim is the hero.
And I gotta say, so this ended with me getting pulled over by security after CNN's lackey, PR chick that was just following Acosta around, serving him. She got security to, she asked security to get rid of me. And this is in the First Amendment Museum, again, that celebrates journalism and freedom of the press. And they asked to remove a journalist asking questions about the free press.
Here we go again. I'll circle right back to Jim, because remember, everyone was supposed to take up the cause of Jim because he was such a pain in the ass that Trump, whatever you think of him, said, get him out of here. I don't want him. Send somebody else. He was a cause célèbre there. So I guess it only applies again to Jim. Another journalist can be tossed on their ass. They haven't reached the same stature of a great journalist like, say, Jim Acosta or another luminary like Dan Rather or maybe Brian Williams. I mean, there's some just really stellar winners out there. Maybe you're right. It's not that hard to be a journalist.
Yeah. I mean, you just ask questions, and it's funny. Like, everyone was celebrating Jim for asking questions like repeatedly, even when Trump was like, "All right, next person," and Jim was like, "Oh, how can the president, not answer your questions?" And then I go meet him in the First Amendment Museum, and I ask him questions. And he calls me rude for asking him questions in the First Amendment Museum about the First Amendment in the middle of his talk about the First Amendment and protecting the First Amendment. It was just a perfect moment, really. I'm glad I was able to record it on video.
It's a great video, by the way. Everybody check out this channel, and you can see that there. He's got another great video there, complimenting the love of Sam Cedar to Jimmy Dore.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, Sam. Oh, Sam. I could, yeah, it was he made it for me, you know. Sometimes people, they just say stuff and you're just like, thank you, and you just got to take it. And but I want to bring up one point. I don't know if I've already told you this about Jim Acosta, but I know we have talked and you have talked about the YouTube censorship, and in particular the issue of how the YouTube algorithm chooses to promote authoritative sources, right?
Yeah, I have a theory about that. Yeah.
And well, I've got one perfect example for everybody about how fucked up this is. I mean, you know, in theory, but I'll just give you an example. So if you search Jim Acosta, Julian Assange, what will pop up? It won't be, you know, my video or any video that mentions Jim Acosta and Julian Assange, or that's about Jim Acosta and Julian Assange. No, the first thing, the first result is a CNN video, but Jim Acosta's not in it. It talks about Julian Assange for half the video. Who is it that YouTube puts in everyone's faces as the authoritative source at the top of the search results for Jim Acosta, Julian Assange? James Clapper.
Oh God, of course. Of course. The guy who sat there and lied in front of Congress so obviously. I mean, I have body language experts on all the time. You can see the bookshelf.
Huh.
The guy that wrote that's on tomorrow night. I don't need him to look at James Clapper's testimony to go, this mofo is lying. It's like, this is grade school. I don't even have to watch Lie to Me. I could take a 10-year-old kid and say, what's wrong with him? Oh, he's lying.
Yeah, so, luckily we don't need body language experts, because thankfully Edward Snowden's leaks prove the motherfucker was lying under oath, and you have somebody, a proven liar, who lied under oath, and he is the authoritative source that YouTube is putting at the top of the search results. That is insane.
Oh yeah. Well, guess what? I have a series that I'm doing with somebody, and we've done 2 on CIA presence in movies, and the second one was CIA presence in the news, like Anderson Cooper, like Rush Limbaugh, right? Now I'm sure you're not a fan, but he was a great personality. When he died, guess who replaced him?
Who?
Buck Sexton, who's CIA.
Yes.
So they're rampant through the news, CNN, everything. So should it be a surprise that Clapper's in there?
I guess not, but you couldn't have a better example, I think. And he was an intelligence director himself also. He got promoted. He got promoted in the intelligence community. To lead the intelligence community after it was verified that he lied under oath about the intelligence community spying on Americans without warrants. Just unbelievable.
Yes. Absolutely. And you know what? We're gonna shift now, because I'm talking about how, people who are left, people who are right, are kind of almost becoming strange bedfellows. That doesn't always hold together, because I see things where it's like, okay, everybody's getting along, free speech, screw the man, I can't stand you, I hate this, I hate that. But then something comes in the news, like, say, Israel, and boy, that starts to show the splintering between all the different groups. I mean, and it's not just like a left and a right thing. I mean, the right itself is splintering, because you have there's a lot of anti-Semitism that's on both sides that's tied in there. And there's a lot of people who aren't, so there's a question of that, and it just shows splintering on both sides. I think you have the same situation now with Cuba. And I'm bringing this up, and Allison, I know, I want to go into it too. This is from Luke whose name I cannot seem to pronounce. I'd have to look it up and try it, Rudowski or whatever. And it's a really, really, really interesting situation where you have quite literally a dichotomy. You have both sides of this. People in Cuba are rioting. The people I'm not really hearing from about the rioting are actual Cubans, and everybody is deciding for them what their fate is, whether they are supporting the government like BLM, AOC, communism good. And I'm sorry, they literally are supporting communism. It's not like I'm trying to throw out a straw man or anything like that. I'm not trying to, paint them. But have you noticed that where there's a definite conflict, if you will?
The conflict. Well, first let me say, I mean, sure, some BLM people are communist, but it's a range like most moves, right? I mean, some people really are just concerned about, how our, prison industrial complex cages up, brown people disproportionately.
Sure. And now, by the way, I'm talking about the organization BLM itself.
Yes, it is true that
marching aren't the same.
Yeah, I believe at least one of the founders even said she was a Marxist herself, and it was disturbing to me that an article about her and her expensive properties got censored on Facebook when an article about my friend and Jimmy Dore and others about his property that didn't get fucking censored. So that's obviously selective political censorship, and that's wrong. But sorry, so I what was the question? What conflict again were you asking about?
I think there's a weird situation, and here's where I stand on it, because I was just talking and complaining about the CIA. Right? I'm not a big fan, and many people on here are not. However, like a broken clock, they're not always behind every single thing out there. So as an example, I believe two things can be true at once. I think the CIA can have an evil mission and do evil things. At the same time, do not tell me the Castro government were good people that took care of their people, that were loving and caring, because I have personal experience with the people. And by the people, I mean the 40,000 of them who watched their friends die when they were trying to get here, I was caring for in Guantanamo Bay. Normally, when you have people fleeing to go somewhere, they're not usually running toward their oppressor. I'm a little slow. I admit it. I'm not super well educated, but it's kind of like the Berlin Wall. One side had rifles and was shooting to keep people in place. The other side did not, and the people were running against that gunfire. In Cuba, people are swimming against the sharks. People are using everything they can to get here. That does not imply a happy situation at home. Just my theory.
So, yeah, I would agree. And, I can't speak for, obviously I can't represent everybody on the left. And I do consider myself more independent, but the bottom line to me is I think a lot of the people on the left who are criticizing the CIA, it's for the same reasons you would. And sure. Probably your audience does. And we're just against the idea of regime change because it's proven to be disastrous over and over and over again. Right. And so I think, so I don't think
right nobody is doing anything with Cuba right now. And my stance that I'm coming from is Allison brought on some Cubans saying, hey, this is what life is like. Hi, Allison.
And they're against regime change. They're against intervention.
Yes.
Okay. U.S. intervention, but they also don't like the government. But you can't say these two things in one sentence, because then people from both sides come after you and they want you wiped from YouTube, which is what I found. So I'm now a CIA asset. In fact, I think I'm going to get a shirt that says that.
And that's what's frustrating to me is she's bringing on to show this other side. And, I worked with the refugees and things like that. So it's like, yeah, CIA has done some nasty things and they probably helped exacerbate some of the problems. Obviously, Bay of Pigs wasn't cool. Obviously, a president died, shockingly, when he stopped some things that were going on. Now, we can't say necessarily it was a direct line, but a highly coincidental line that some missions were stopped that inspired the movie Dr. Strangelove. And, and we're yellow.
Oh boy!
Should I do the drop?
Oh,
Allison?
Yeah, do it.
That's right. I love that. Tape damage. Thank you very much.
So yeah, no, I think it is important that of course things aren't good over there. They're experiencing a lot of problems over there, but people can recognize that and also be against regime change because you can recognize that makes things worse. And one of the reasons things are not doing well over there that sometimes the conservative media doesn't cover is the U.S. sanctions. That hurts.
I want to cover that though, because yes, those same sanctions that have been there for 60 years absolutely aren't helpful, but it's kind of like, let's talk about charities and the money going to Africa. And isn't that great? All that wheat, all that food is getting right to the people, isn't it? No. Same problem you have there. Half of the sanctions in Cuba are not just from the U.S. saying, oh, hell no, I'm not sending anything. It's from the Cubans themselves saying, no, your merchandise is substandard. We want local labor to make it because we don't like the competition.
Well, from what I understand too, like food itself, we don't there's an exemption on food and medicine. Apparently we export a gazillion pounds of pork and chicken to Cuba all the time. So I guess the thing that just like, I was really, first off, I don't even know if I had known what hornet's nest I was stepping into, man, I would have thought twice about even getting into this topic. But at least I would have been like, okay, I'm going to have this person and this person and this person and this person. And like, all the different, conspiracy sides, I'm going to have everybody on and I'm just going to sit back with my beer and just let everybody yell at each other. But the one thing I just didn't like was that I had actual Cubans, who are like, we want to tell our story. And then you have these Americans who are like, they're CIA assets, which is exactly what they get from their government when they protest, is that they're CIA assets. So it just felt very infantilizing and like neo-colonialist kind of in a way, that you have Americans who seem to know better than, like, I'm not saying that we can't have a debate, but to totally cut somebody off at the knees that's like just trying to tell you their experience in their own country, and to not even let them get past go because you just say they're just brainwashed or whatever. I was like, how can you even have a fair debate? You can't, because you've already just made that person, you've yellowed that person, you've demonetized that person. You know what I mean? They're all of a sudden the suspect. You can't even go any further. They've been, and I just felt icky to me, I guess, because it's like on one hand, we're arguing that Cubans need to have self-determination. The U.S. has ruined that with this embargo. We've made things terrible over there. And the Cuban people should be, freed from all this stuff. But then we're also saying at the same time, but we can't listen to the Cubans if they don't say what we want them to say. And it's like, well, what is it? Should the Cubans, are we the ones, should we be in control or not? Because to me, it's like, if you don't want to be in economic control, why are you also trying to be in ideological control by telling them what they think? And that was the one thing, like I said, it's just icky. It just didn't feel right.
Since I missed that interview, what is it that the Cubans are saying that Americans say they shouldn't be saying, or are ignoring that they're saying?
That just like the communist government, and issues with the communist government, essentially.
Well, first they're saying that the protests are not about the embargo; they're about the government. That the statements they're yelling is freedom, not food. And the argument I've seen from it and you mentioned Americans here, is also a Syrian journalist living out of England, who's a very strong personality on the issue, points out saying, no, they're complaining about the sanctions and they're saying, no, that's not what they're yelling about. The dissident, as a matter of fact, they were saying the main dissident is an Afro-Cuban, an artist, and the government wasn't letting people have the food anyway. And that gave me flashbacks to when I was caring for the Cubans, because I would talk about, well, at least you got good cigars, right? And they said, oh, no, that's for tourists. They're not even allowed to have that stuff. It's way above their income. And I forget, what is her salary, Allison? I think it's like $50 a month equivalent or something.
Oh, it was like $120 a month or something like that, $100 a month.
Well, I think
they didn't like the embargo either. I should say that they're very anti-American embargo. But that's the thing. It's like, if you would listen to, I just felt people just so triggered, by like, they're like anti-embargo, anti-intervention, but they also are like, it's a lie to say that this is all because of the U.S. embargo. It's extremely one-sided and, whatever. And then people are just like, tune out. They won't even, don't want to listen to anything they have to say after that. You're all of a sudden just spouting CIA propaganda. You can't even have a fair conversation about it.
That's the thing. No, thank you for it's both. There are protests and people who have serious issues with the communist government, and there are some that support it. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this one clip going around. And that is, it was a Fox News clip. I believe it was Ted Cruz commenting on
I saw you tweeted
some of the protests. And he's okay, yes. But he's commenting on how the protests are, about how terrible the communist government is. And I'm not, obviously people have good reason to be upset with the communist government, but he's commenting on video that was doctored. The signs were blurred out. And if you remove the blur, somebody found the original video, and apparently the signs were supporting the communist revolution. So,
right. And by the way, that is true. That is another element to bring in too, that, to their credit or shame, however you put it, and there are questions on it, there is a initiative or military response to the protests as well. Like, get off your ass and get out there. Because one thing you got to know about Cuba too is that every building has a spy. Every building has somebody working for the government. So that's hard to know as well. And that's part of the reason that I agree with Allison. I really want to talk to more Cubans. So rather than saying, Allison, you don't want you to talk about it, and their CIA assets, it's like, can you bring me some more Cubans?
Well, you guys, at the end of the day, I just wish when it came to topics where those of us who are like sitting in, listen, we're already brainwashed by our news. Okay. So it's like the level of enlightenment that a lot of people walk around thinking they just know everything. And this happens on all sides of the spectrum. And just shout at each other when it's like, okay, you could say like, I believe this to be true, but let's just get real. Like in this particular case, unless you're actually there, it's very hard to know what's really going on. That's why I trust like reporters who go to actual places, not the person who's sitting in a New York newsroom. And more so, I want to hear from people who are there locally. And I guess walking away from this and just like, I stopped reading the comments because I'm just over it. But it's like the level of hubris that people walk around thinking that they know everything about these topics. Like, how did we get here? Because it seems to me that the most intellectually honest place to be would be, this is what I think is going on. But like, I'm taking stuff that's coming out on social media. I have no idea who's tweeting this. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know what their government's messaging is. I don't know what our government's messaging is, like behind the scenes. I don't know what our mainstream media's dog in the fight is. Like all these different things. And so it's very difficult, I feel like, to get when at a topic like this with so many different charged positions, it's very difficult to really know what you're talking about. And if you start at a level where you're like, I want to know, not I already know everything, you're more likely to, find out what's really going on. But it concerns me when I see people just like, just rabid about certain topics as if they just know everything, like they are the geopolitical wizard, and they couldn't possibly be duped. Like they couldn't possibly be duped by anything. And I don't know, that doesn't seem like a great starting place for dialogue about topics like this.
And one thing I want to point out too, Matt, sorry I jumped in earlier, but you are right about the signs being blurred out being fucked up. That is not cool. I don't believe in editing the message either way. So I didn't mean to blow by that and not acknowledge it.
I don't even know why would they show that stupid video. It seems so dumb that Fox even showed that video. Like why would you even just find another video? Like why would they? Isn't that dumb to you guys that they would even show it?
Yeah, see the deception. There's just so much deception because there's the agendas. The communist government, they have their agenda. The U.S. government and their corporate allies, they have their agenda. They want to intervene. And so somebody commented that those pro-government rallies in Cuba could very well have been orchestrated by the government to some degree, at least. I think of course, that's a possibility.
There's so many options.
To some degree, I would think so. To some degree, at the very least. But so there's one side. But then with this example of Fox News taking this clip of a pro-government rally and literally editing it to be an anti-government rally, that's extremely sketchy too. And it begs the question: if there are a lot of anti-government protesters, why wouldn't you just take? It should be easy enough to just take some of that video, right?
Yeah, that's exactly why it's so weird. It just okay. Let me say, as somebody who used to work at Fox News Channel, the editor, like we would go in. I was 21 when I worked there. I didn't know, to keep it clean for YouTube, I didn't know my nose from my toe. I'll just you know what I mean? I literally, and you would just this is how it works. All right. You're producing a segment. Say I was the producer for that segment. Hey, you book Ted Cruz, you get him his car, you write the talking points for the anchor, you give them their little blue cards and everything. And then you got to get the video. Well, you know how like the AP and Reuters write the wires for basically everybody, and then they just get regurgitated around the country. Well, what happens in network, in cable news outlets oftentimes is that there's like a few videos floating around that just, you do a search, like I need Cuba video. Okay. And that just comes up and you just plug it in. The segment producer is not even looking at the video. So it's highly likely that the segment producer, the anchors, Ted Cruz himself, like they're paying such little attention to the actual content, that they may not have even known that video was even there. Because if it would have been me, I'm just like, oh, good, Cuba video. Now, the fact that it existed in the system at all and was blurred is stupid. They should not have even had it. But I'm telling you, like you have a 21-year-old that's just cutting and pasting something that doesn't know anything about most of this stuff.
And Matt,
well, he knows about it because he edited it, and
because the editor did, who's like just a person. Now I don't know why they're doing that.
Previously edited video.
As far as Ted Cruz, sorry, well, let me just say, Ted Cruz, you're saying Ted Cruz is commenting on this. He's not aware of the video. Ted Cruz, we all know, is going to say the same damn thing no matter what. It doesn't matter if there's any images or what the images are.
Ice cream. Yeah, you could play video of ice cream. He's going to say the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. But he actually also commented. He said specifically, watching these images. So
now I got to say one thing though, Matt. You did ask a question earlier that I have to answer you. We said how it should be very easy to find the opposite video. Well, let's say it's not Cuba, it's North Korea. Show me all the anti-government video marches. It's not that different. Ask the people.
I'm confused.
So I'm just saying that there's the suppression level in Cuba compared to what we know or we see is very different. You know, you might want to see your kid. You might not want to go to prison. You might not want to be executed. I think that they actually they have risk. So I did want to put that out there.
That said, I do think it's often framed like the Cubans are just all trying to get out of there. And I haven't posted this on my channel yet, but I interviewed another guy who's got a, you know, he's been there. He's like a journal. He's done documentaries down there. He's been there like 100 times. And he said the vast majority of the people he knows and he talks to, especially when he's out shooting, love Cuba. They want to stay in Cuba. They're very patriotic. They may not like their government, but they're not like trying to flee to the United States. And he said, actually, the number one place they all want to go is Germany if they want to go anywhere. They don't even really want to come to the United States. Because they're like, they already know about the United States. There's no allure here. You know, it's like they're already like kind of in our culture's infiltrated down there a little bit. And but he's, you know, he made it sound that like we were constantly focusing on the negative, but that the Cubans are far more patriotic than Americans. They like their country much more than many Americans like the United States. And, you know, they have issues with their government, you know, some serious issues, but they don't necessarily want to leave Cuba. Just throwing that out there.
And Miami, a lot of Cubans in Miami would go home immediately if the government was changed. That is true. I mean,
one
very
other
strong
thing
family
too,
bonds, things like that. You know, it's
on that note too. The other thing that he said that I thought was interesting is he feels like the Ted Cruz's, Marco Rubio's, he calls them the haters, would prefer, they hate the government so much that they want the government to suffer more than they want the people to thrive. And so that a lot of the lens through which they see the solution there is just about punishing the government, not about doing what's right for the Cuban people.
I can see that.
And also when you punish the government and the Cuban people with embargoes, it helps you make your case that, you know, Cuba is lost and, you know, cannot be saved without U.S. military intervention.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's the oldest failure.
One of this was kind of an interesting point that Maria and Yoel made about the embargo was they don't like it in part because but basically what they said was like the main revenue going into Cuba is tourism and imperialist money. That's literally what they said. And so it's like they all send money back. And then their families are just like, we're just going to take our money from our friend, you know? And so, and they don't like it because they're like, we don't want our families to just be waiting for us to send checks. You know, we want them to like go do something. And, you know, I think that, you know, but they also blame that on the government too, you know, it's a both and thing, but, you know, I just thought one of the things he also said was that Western Union's you can't use Western Union now. And that's really hurt people because you can't send money down now. They're paying like 40% on the dollar just to send some money there. So anyone who was like sending money before is now paying literally 40% more than what they were paying before in order to just send, you know, $100, $1,000 or whatever you're paying, what, 1,400 or something like that. I don't do math. I'm not a math major, so don't quote me on that.
Where we wanted to visit the story, Alice and I were talking about this earlier and wanted to talk with you because have you had any kind of situation where you put out a story and then your own audience or people you think you're kind of like, okay, I normally get on with these, everybody hears my voice, people are used to it, they listen to me, and then they're like just yelling at you, like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, definitely. And it's because I'm more independent. I don't follow a party line. I had a very large Bernie Sanders fan following, probably still do. But a couple examples. I know I brought up last time I spoke with you when I made a video about the Covington Catholic High School kids and how the media totally, misframed that whole incident. I thought that was horrible. And honestly, one of the things that attracted me to the Bernie Sanders campaign is the first thing I noticed is how terribly the media was misframing things and lying about them, just straight up lying about them. And so that's really when I noticed that, that's what I like to focus on. I like to, it bothers me greatly when I notice the whole country's being lied to about something. You know, whether it was Bernie Sanders and his campaign and his agenda, or Covington Catholic high school kids, just some high school kids on the Lincoln Memorial. They bother me. And so anyway, so I got pushback for that. And more recently, Kyle Rittenhouse, like I covered the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I did not take any sides. I just presented the evidence, of which there is a lot. There's a lot of video evidence. And so I thought it was very strange when I just asked my audience on Twitter. I got accused of, you know, being a Nazi, all the above, right? Just because I simply asked, you know, so how is it? I basically just asked, what do you think of the case? How come you're supporting the case or supporting Kyle Rittenhouse when I speak of it theoretically, and I don't mention Kyle Rittenhouse, but when I mention Kyle Rittenhouse, the stats turned and 75% was against him. Whereas when I didn't mention Kyle Rittenhouse and I described the case, 75% supported the case. So I just shared the screenshots of those two polls, and I was like, explain this. That's all I said. Explain this. And I just like hounded. I just got fucking hounded, attacked. Like it's like, I mean, literally people calling me racist, people with, you know, way more followers than me calling me racist. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, how are you getting racist from this? And when that happened, I had to make the video, and you know, I got some pushback on that. But anyway, so yeah, those are examples of how I've been burned and gotten attacked by, you know, my own followers when I decide to, you know, go veer and don't always go by the party lines and the, you know, the stereotypical lefty lines.
How do you cope?
How do I cope? Well, honestly, after I dropped the video, honestly, I did get some good support on the video. And so that gives me hope, you know, to have people arguing with you and calling you a racist, when they don't actually have a real argument. It's like, you know, you just gotta, it's alarming. It's very alarming because you get called racist and you're fucking unemployable. I had fucking Neera Tanden call my videos racist. She's the fucking Biden administration.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's scary. But ultimately, you know, when I make my case in a video where you know, it's a longer argument, and then I don't get the same responses and I get positive responses, that gives me hope. Even just getting anybody with some positive responses that can actually say, you know what, I appreciate you trying to take an objective look at this, or, you know, and just when I get that kind of response, that's what gives me hope, and that's what keeps me going. And I get enough of it to keep me going.
Does it make you ever wonder, though, if YouTube is just as bad as mainstream media in its echo chambers?
No, that's a good point. I think so. As far as echo chambers go, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And
So
like when people say I watch because I want objective information or I want the truth, but it's like, do you really? You know, do you really want somebody that's willing to go to, you know, to talk about something that may not be ideologically popular on one particular side? Because I question that. I hear from people a lot when they like something. See, this is why I watch you, because it's objective, you know. But then which I don't even really believe in full objectivity anyway. But
sure,
but it's funny but then, you know, if you go, you know, in an opposite direction and explore something that wouldn't be, you know, popular on that path, then it's like, see, you're biased, and how could you be so? And you're like, wait a second. So, do you really want object? I just don't know if people necessarily want what they say they want, even in YouTube.
Eva's coming in with a blow here, Matt. With that experience, Matt, have you ever called anyone else a racist? Or
I'm proud to say
how loosely that term is thrown around as an accusation.
Yeah, no, I'm Viva. I'm proud to say that I've never been that kind of person that's just baselessly accusing people of racism. I'm proud to say I never did. I never tried to cancel anybody, with the exception of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden for their roles in the Iraq War. and I think that's reasonable. So yeah, I'm proud I was never that kind of person, because I could see how easy, how so many of these accusations are baseless, and you could just call anybody a racist, and I could, it just shouldn't take much to see like how fucked up that is to make these accusations of somebody that could destroy their fucking lives. And I want to ask, in fact, I defended what was his name, Tom Rockledge. He was called racist. He is on the school council in New York City, one of the districts. I forget which district. Anyway, he got accused of being a racist. I had him on to defend these false accusations. They're clearly false because the whole shit show went down in a recorded Zoom interview. Anyway, I had him on, and what did YouTube determine? They determined that video was hateful, letting someone defend themselves from it. But that's another story. To bring us back to what we were talking about, I want to ask you, Allison. We were saying how is tribalism, are these echo chambers just as bad online? And I want to ask you, so you mentioned you got some bad feedback, some angry response to your interviews with actual Cubans about what's going on in Cuba. What form was that? Was that just in the form of comments, or what about likes? I mean, did most people like the video though?
I think the percentage was like in the 95 or 96 range, but normally I would say I'm at like a 98 something so it's like, it was still high on the like to dislike ratio, but the vast majority, I think maybe that's just like some people just didn't want to hit the dislike, or maybe they just went straight to the comments, but the comments were overwhelmingly negative compared to most of my other videos. I mean, just like one guy even got mad at me for having a wine sponsor for my channel because he used that to say that so first off, he said I was playing all sides. That's how I'm looked at if I talk about something. So I guess you're genuine if you only talk about one side of things. I guess that makes you more genuine. But if you're willing to just like, hey, I just want to hear what these people have to say. I don't know a lot about this topic. I'm just curious. Then you're playing both sides. And then he all in that. And I don't even know if I responded to this one or not, but I'm also a conspiracy theorist who repeats Jen Psaki talking points. So I'm like, wait a second, am I mainstream or am I conspiracy theorist? I can't because these two people were like dogpiling on me. And one of them says, because of the COVID stuff that I let people, I have doctors on that question the COVID policies. So I'm a conspiracy theorist for allowing people to question the narrative. But then I'm also Jen Psaki, and I couldn't keep it. But the funniest one was that if you go to AlisonWinePromo.com, Alison with 1L winepromo.com, you can support free speech and have a great glass of high altitude Argentinian Malbec. AlisonWinePromo.com. That's Alison with 1L winepromo.com. 50% off my wine and 50% off shipping. But he said this one person was like, she's so bougie because she sells wine. I'm like, do you think I have a line of people down the street asking to sponsor my channel? I had one person reach out and say, hey, we know that you like Malbecs. We'd like to help you out on your channel. And if this is the thing that bothers me. It's like your workers' rights, or like you're for the people. But so I found one sponsor willing to help me out on my channel so that I could maybe someday do this full time. And it's just not good enough for you because it's wine. I mean, it's just, it's like, dude, cut people some slack. Like, you have no idea what somebody's financial situation is. Like, I'm making $1 million off of, like, it's not like I had people down the street who were like, hey, we would really like you to promote our rice. And I was like, no, rice. Oh, I only do wine on my channel. You know what I mean? Dude, if you want me to sell rice on my channel, as long as, you know, it goes the way you raise it and everything goes with my values on like how I do things, then I'll sponsor your, I'll have your rice on my channel. But you know, and I am going to have a coffee sponsor soon. So I will not give all the details away, but it's actually pretty cool. They've created a ton of new jobs in Nicaragua, and keep a lot of the money locally, which I'm really happy to have them as sponsor. But that's only my second offer. It's not like I sit back and I have like, you know, I'm not dealing in the big bucks here, dude. I'm a stay-at-home mom who, you know, works other jobs in order to be able to do this. So it was just really weird, like the attacks. You're bougie,
Alison.
you're a conspiracy theorist, you're Jen Psaki. And I finally got so sick and tired of reading it. I just was like, I'm done. So I haven't read the YouTube comments in a few days.
All right. Well, Alison, read the super chat.
Alison, actually have had you changed my opinion on some things because you have had shown both sides of an issue. Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'm not trying to necessarily change anyone's mind. I'm just, you're getting to learn while I learn, because I fully admit that when I come to a lot of this stuff, I'm just trying to learn. I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm just trying to learn. And I want to hear what different people, and one other thing is, you know, I enjoy when my audience sends me story ideas. And I will literally talk to pretty much anybody. I mean, there's no one I've said like, no, I will not talk. So somebody sent me that couple, and they had a bunch of videos go kind of viral on YouTube. And I thought they were just interesting. And so I'm like, sure. You know, one of my audience members, you know, they said, hey, why don't you see if these people will come on? So I did. I just invited them on. So if you want to send me another person, I'm happy to have them on too. It just, I don't know. It was just unfortunate to see how quickly people they just have no empathy or no room for curiosity about who you are or where you're coming from or how you made your decisions or, you know, what's going on. It's always just to the like worst level of extreme nefarious intent. Like when you did your videos, Matt, you know, you were trying to intentionally be racist and you're pushing, you know, like what, you know, and here I am, like, it's just really unfortunate. What are you going to do?
Now, when did that change, by the way? Because there was a time that Walter Cronkite or whatever, he would interview Fidel Castro, or they would interview Gaddafi, or they would interview known enemies of the United States or whatever. How many times did they go interview Charles Manson in prison, for God's sake? And you can't tell me he was a stellar person. And nobody would say, how dare you platform Charles Manson?
Yeah.
So it's very disingenuous, you know, in history, I feel.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share that, you know, super chat, Alison, because I know you're a victim of it. I don't know about Matt. I've talked to many other YouTubers or whatever that, you know, that those negative comments are kind of like a nail in a feather bed. The whole bed is nice. Everybody's showing all this support, but you just keep rolling around and hitting that stupid nail on that one comment. You just don't notice, you know, all the other support that's actually out there.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. I mean, Biden campaign, like they sent a bunch of trolls after me. Like it was so, yeah, I've experienced it. I'm actually feeling good very good after hearing Alison describe how on that Cuba video, even though she got a lot of nasty comments and it was rated slightly lower than her normal A+ rating, it's still A. It's A. That might even be an A+, at least an A. That's 95. That's an A, ladies and gentlemen. So that tells me that people, you know, obviously you're always going to have some nasty comments. But this tells me that there's certainly a tribe. It is a tribe that is interested in hearing both sides, and they're not so close-minded. They're more open-minded than the traditional blue team, red team tribes. And I think that's great.
Wow. You know what? That's a perfect point to wrap up on. Any last points?
My Julian Assange video has been demonetized, waiting for review for a week. They were able to figure out how to that I needed to be suspended and rejected the appeal for my suspension in 12 hours. But I still am waiting for review about whether my Julian Assange video can be monetized.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Well, and I'll bring this up. AlisonMorrow.locals.com.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And yes, Robert Barnes is a master at it. He does a better job. I haven't said my locals once, and I think he said it twice in the chat. So unstructured.locals.
Matt needs to get on locals.
Yeah,
I probably should. Honestly, so Allison, she sent me, you told me I should get on locals. You sent me a link to one of your posts. That post had more engagement than any recent post on my Facebook page with over 100 followers. What the hell? I should probably get on one of those things. You can see, in the meantime, people can find me on Twitter, 0RF.
You can find him on Twitter, which he may get suspended from, and will not help him pay his bills at all. But go over to Twitter and find Matt.
And
YouTube
and Patreon for the time being. Before I guess.
Oh yeah, Patreon. That's good. Yeah, except for man, we didn't talk about this, but I had Ryan Christian on from The Last American Vagabond. I just haven't uploaded the video yet. And he was booted from PayPal. They just totally. They called him. He's permanently limited banned or something. Like some random.
No, it's suspended is my favorite. Being suspended from Twitter. When is suspended? No, suspended means that you're out for X amount of time, but permanently suspended. What the hell is that? Anyway, that's another.
Yeah, that bothers me too. Just say expelled, banned, banished.
I think, you know what? If Congress got paid through PayPal, or Patreon, do you think in a million years this would be allowed? That banking systems would be able to just shut somebody out from their cash flow and keep their money. PayPal kept Ryan's account. They kept his money. They didn't even give him his money before kicking him out.
Wow.
That's like criminal. There's no way in a million years that if our lawmakers were paid through PayPal, that would be allowed.
There may be something on that. I don't know. We've got some lawyers in the chat, unjust enrichment and other things. Speaking of Kyle Rittenhouse, by the way, Matt, one of his lawyers was in the chat.
Cool.
Just FYI.
Share my video if you like it.
Hashtag racist. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think he sleeps. So.
Tweet it at Nero Tandon.
All right, folks. Thank everybody so much. Please check us out on Locals, YouTube, everywhere. Please subscribe.